you take your time. There's something about the love of things you like. Fire when the strobe hits. Bet you're looking for something new. I feel the heat with you staring up across the room.
Hello everyone, how you all are at your home? I hope that you all are fine and doing great at your home. So students, you all are welcome to the English world in class 9th, okay, by Miss Purnima Bhardwaj. Okay, let's have some instructions. First of all, upload your homework on the portal. Okay, if you have doubts, you have to mail them on pwornimavabb@gmail.com. Okay, and now you have to take a pencil with you to underline the difficult words and write the meaning as well as on the spot. Write down all the words with their meanings in their fair notebooks. Okay, if you are not writing it, that is also okay. Do all the uploaded work in the fair notebook. Objectives of this video: introduction of the writer. You have given introduction of the chapter, reading and explanation of the chapter with the recapitulation of the chapter. Okay, this is book number 1, the chapter number 7, that is packing. Okay, so let's have the introduction of the writer. So you can see in the picture that he is Jerome K. Jerome. Okay, the short form is Jerome K. Jerome. Okay, he is born on 2nd of May 1859 and he died on 14 July 1927. He was an English writer and humorist, best known for the comic travelogue Three Men in a Boat, 1889. Other works include the essay collections Idle Thoughts of an Idle Fellow, 1886, and Second Thoughts of an Idle Fellow, Three Men on the Bummel, a sequence to Three Men in a Boat, and several other novels. Now let's have the introduction of the chapter. So, Jerome, Harris, and George are 3 friends. The author Jerome is describing his packing skills and feels that he knows more about it rather than anyone else. Full stop. He suggests his other friends to leave the packing, that they are doing for the trip entirely to him. George and Harris happily agree to it and make themselves comfortable in the room. But Jerome did not intend this. He actually wanted to boss them and instruct them to pack the baggage according to him. But as he himself had offered to help, he started the work and finally finished it in some time. Suddenly Harris said that he had forgotten the boots. Jerome felt irritated on that. He opened his bag and put the boots in it. Then, when he was just to zip it again, he just thought if he had packed his toothbrush or not. The idea that he has left his toothbrush haunts him on every journey. To find his brush, he unpacks and packs it again. They all created chaos over the things, and finally Harris and George decided to do the rest of the packing. While they were packing, Jerome watched them and thought that Harris was the worst packer in the world. They all were very excited. While packing, Harris and George first broke a cup. Then Harris packed the strawberry jam on top of the tomato and squashed it. Then George put a mess with the butter and the whole place was so sticky. Above all of this, Montmorency the dog was in it all. It seemed to be his ambition of life to get into the way of the others. He loved to make people mad and create nuisance all over. He came and sat on the thing when they were just about to be packed. Finally, after so much chaos, irritation, and laughter too, they managed to pack their bags in a hope that they had not forgotten anything and they will find their things in best of the condition when they open it and went to sleep. So now let's have the, so students, let's have the chapter now. So let's have the chapter, students. Okay, so chapter number 7 is packing. Okay, and what we have to do is we just have to read it, okay, and underline whatever we are having. Okay, so now let's read the chapter. Okay, do you like going on trips? What kind of trips do you enjoy the most? How do you feel about having to pack for a trip? Have you ever discovered on a trip that you have forgotten to pack a few things you very much need, or that you can't find them easily? Does this make you angry, or does it make you laugh at yourself? Now read the chapter. I said I'd pack. I rather pride myself on my packing. Packing is one of those many things that I feel I know more about than any other person living. It surprises me myself sometimes how many such things there are. I impressed the fact upon George and Harris and told them that they had better leave the whole matter entirely on me. They fell into the suggestion, and with a readiness that this had something uncanny about it. George put on a pipe and spread himself over the easy chair, and Harris cocked his legs on the table and lit a cigar. This was hardly what I intended. What I had meant, of course, was that I should boss the job, and that Harris and George should potter about under my directions, I pushing them aside very now and then with, "Oh, you, here, let me do it. They are simple enough." Really teaching them, as you might say. They're taking it in the way they did irritated me. There is nothing does irritate me more than seeing other people sitting without doing nothing when I'm working. Okay, what he's saying that they three were going somewhere on a trip, okay, and what happens that they were packing the things, okay, and this person, that George, wants to boss them, okay, he's just giving the instructions at all. Okay, so now what was going on, what he says that I was doing the work and they were just sitting. So what he thought, there is nothing does irritate me more than seeing other people sitting about doing nothing when I am working. I lived with a man once who used to make me mad that way. He would loll on the sofa and watch me doing things by the hour together. He said it did him real good to look on at me, messing about. Now I am not like that. I can't sit still and see another man slaving and working. I want to get up and pretend and walk around with my hands in my pockets and tell him what to do. It is my energetic nature. I can't help it. However, I did not say anything but started the packing. It seemed a longer job than I had thought, and it was going to be, but I got the bag finished at the last, and I sat on it and strapped it. Ain't you go to put the boots in? Students, ain't means aren't you. It is the short form, we can say the question tag of aren't you. Ain't you going to put the boots in? Said Harris. And I looked round and found I had forgotten them. That's just like Harris. He couldn't have said a word until I'd got the bag shut and strapped, of course. And George laughed. One of those irritating, senseless laughs of his. They do make me so wild. I opened the bag and packed the boots in, and then just as I was going to close it, a horrible idea occurred to me. Had I packed my toothbrush? Oh my god, students, what is going on over here, that they have packed everything, and now what George is thinking, that had he packed his toothbrush? Okay, so instead checking it in the place where he used to keep that, he was just doing what? He's just looking in his bag. Okay, so now what happens in the next is, I don't know how it is, but I never to know whether I have packed my toothbrush. My toothbrush is a thing that haunts me when I am traveling and makes my life a misery. I dream that I haven't packed it and wake up in a cold perspiration and get out of bed and hunt for it. And in the morning, I pack it before I have used it and have to unpack again to get it. And it is always the last thing I turn out of the bag, and then I repack and forget it and have to rush upstairs for it at the last moment and carry it to the railway station, wrapped up in my pocket handkerchief. Of course, I had turned every mortal thing out now, and of course, I could not find out. I rummaged the things up into much the same state that they must have been before the world was created and when chaos reigned. Full stop. Just wait for a second, students. Of course, I found George and Harris's 18 times over, but I couldn't find my own. I put the things back one by one and held everything up and shook it. Then I found it inside a boot. I repacked once more. When I had finished, George asked if the soap was in. I said I didn't care a hang whether the soap was in or whether it wasn't. And I slammed the bag shut and strapped it and found that I had packed my tobacco pouch in it and had to reopen it. So students, he was having a habit of taking tobacco and all. Okay, so that's why he remembered that he packed that tobacco pouch in his bag and he had to reopen it. So we can see that many times he is just packing and unpacking the things. Okay, so this is going to be very curious with him. Okay, what happens? It got shut up finally at 10:05 p.m. and then there remained the hampers to do. Harris said that we should be wanting to start in less than 12 hours time and thought that he and George had better do the rest, and I agreed and sat down and they had a go. They began in a light-hearted spirit, evidently intending to show me how to do it. I made no comment. I only waited, with the exception of the George. Harris is the worst packer in the world, and I looked at the piles of plates and cups and kettles and bottles and jars and pies and stoves and cakes and tomatoes, etc., and felt that thing would soon become exciting. It did. They started with breaking a cup. Now what they are just packing these things. Okay, these are the things beta they are just packing up. Okay, and so what was going on over there? Breaking of a cup has been started. That was the first thing they did. They did that just to show you what they could do and to get you interested. Then Harris packed the strawberry jam on the top of the tomato, squashed it. What happened now? They just put the strawberry jam on the top of the tomato and they just squashed it. And they have to pick out the tomato with a teaspoon. Now they are just picking out the things with a teaspoon. And then it was George's turn and he trod on the butter. What he just did, he trod means stepped on. He just stepped on the butter. I didn't say anything, but I came over and sat on the edge of the table and watched them. It irritated them more than anything I could have said. I felt that it made them nervous and excited, and they stepped on things and put things behind them, and then couldn't find them when they wanted them. and they packed the pies at the bottom and put heavy things on the top and smashed the pies in. They upset salt over everything. And as for the butter, I never saw two men do more with 1 and 2 pence worth of butter in my whole life than they did. After George had got it off his slipper, they tried to put it in the kettle. It wouldn't go in, and what was in wouldn't come out. They did scrape it out at last, and put it down on a chair, and Harris sat on it, and it stuck to him, and they went looking for it all over the room. "I'll take my oath I put it down on that chair," said George, staring at the empty seat. "I saw you do it myself not a minute ago," said Harris. Then they started round the room looking for it, and they ran, and then they met again in the center and started at one another. "Most extraordinary thing I ever heard of," said George. "So mysterious," said Harris. Then George got round at the back of the Harris and saw it. "Why, here it is all the time," he exclaimed indignantly. "Where?" cried Harris, spinning around. "Stand still, can't you?" roared George, flying after him. And they got it off and packed it in the teapot. Montmorency was it all, of course. Montmorency's ambition in life is to get in the way and be sworn at. So we know that Montmorency is the dog of that writer, students, and be sworn at. If he can squirm in anywhere where he particularly is not wanted and be a perfect nuisance and make people mad and have things thrown at his head when he feels his day has not been wasted. So what is he doing, students? He is just doing the things whatever the dog used to do. The Montmorency is the name of the dog, and you can see in the picture as well that he is just doing the scrap and doing the things of messy things. To get somebody to stumble over him and curse him steadily for an hour is his highest aim and object, and when he has succeeded in accomplishing this, his conceit becomes quite unbearable. Conceit means here his pride in himself. He is just be proud of him that he has done something great. We are talking about the dog. He came and sat down on things just when they were wanted to be packed, and he labored under the fixed belief that whenever Harris or George reached out their hand for anything, it was his cold, damp nose that they wanted. He put his leg into the jam, and he worried the teaspoons, and he pretended that the lemons were rats and got into the hamper and killed 3 of them before Harris could land him with the frying pan. Harris said, "I encouraged him. I didn't encourage him. A dog like that doesn't want any encouragement. It is the natural original sin that is born in him that makes him to do things like that." The packing was done at 12:50, and Harris sat on a big hamper and said he hoped nothing would be found broken. George said that if anything was broken, it was broken. With reflection seemed to comfort him. Reflection here means thought. He also said that he was ready for bed. We were all ready for bed. Harris was to sleep with us that night, and we went upstairs. He tossed for beds, and Harris had to sleep with me. He said, "Do you prefer the inside or the outside, Jerome?" I said I generally preferred to sleep inside a bed. Harris said it was cold. George said, "What time shall I wake you fellows? Harris said 7. I said no, 6, because I wanted to write some letters. Harris and I had a bit of a row over it, but at last split the difference and said 6:30. Wake us at 6:30, George, we said. George made no answer, and we found on going over that he had been sleeping for some time, so we placed the bath where he could tumble into it on getting out in the morning and went to bed ourselves. So students, this was the chapter, and now we are just doing the recapitulation things. Okay, we are just doing the recapitulation over here. What we have done in this chapter is we just have the introduction of the writer, introduction of the chapter, and reading and explanation of the chapter. And now I want to thank you to have a watch on this video. Students, take care, good luck, and enjoy the day. Just learn the things. Okay.